All in Sports Network. We love sports.
The Kansas City Chiefs are between a rock and a hard place, and things continuously get worse on the injury side of things. But is it really over for Kansas City? We talk about it here today on the Chiefs Report, part of the Rogue Sports Network. We're happy to have you on here and welcome you in to another daily show here. And well, we had Thanksgiving, had Friday to kind of digest the game. And now we sit here and we look at some injuries, we look at the road ahead. And I'm not going to lie, it looks very bleak for a multitude of different reasons. But a big portion of that is obviously that was a dismantling loss to what, in my opinion, was a very beatable Cowboys team in a lot of aspects. Now, again, they played better. They made the right trades. Jerry Jones, for whatever you want to give him in terms of crap, he made the team better at the trade deadline, whereas Brett Veach didn't make the team better at the trade deadline. And these two teams were fighting for their playoff odds in a lot of ways. And the Cowboys came out on top, and then they didn't. And so that's something to watch, something to look at. But now, how do you move forward? How do you construct this team? How do you figure out a way to make the playoffs? Because as we continue to look at these injuries and what's going on, I think one thing is still apparent with this Kansas City team. If they get in, they are always a threat. The problem is the getting in, and in a lot of aspects, it's the ability to get in and be healthy while you're in as well. Because right now, the Chiefs are very, very fragile, as a lot of people would like to say. And there's a bunch of injuries that I really do want to break down. The first and the biggest one is Josh Simons. Now, he fractured his wrist and will be out in week 14 and probably beyond. I mean, in my mind, with this injury, the fractured wrist, and the way the Chiefs are playing, again, just spitballing. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen nor what could happen, but if Kansas City is unable to pull out a win against the Houston Texans, a team that legitimately just took out one of the best teams in the AFC in the Indianapolis Colts, then I think you don't play Josh Simons or Simmons or whatever, Josh Simons, the rest of the year. You don't. For one simple reason. He is your first round pick. And this has been a very, very, very weird year for him for a multitude of different reasons. Obviously, the first one being he was absent for 5 weeks for family matters. The Kansas City Chiefs took to it well, so I'm not going to speak too much on it. I know that it obviously was very personable to him. He thanked the Chiefs for their kindness, and we moved on. Whatever. Now with the injury, though, he's not even going to play 10 games in his rookie season, in an 18-week season here. It's something that is just intriguing. And again, I'm not going to sit here and blame him or blame this or blame that, but at the end of the day, it stinks. It really does stink. However, I stand true to the point that if the Kansas City Chiefs are unable to take down the Houston Texans, then I really don't see, first of all, a point in continuing to try and put him out there on the field. And also, I think in a lot of ways, it's planning for next season at that point. Because this season at that point is pretty much in the dumps. And we'll talk about the playoff odds and what exactly the odds makers, the percentages, the computers all have the Kansas City Chiefs at, but it's bleak. It's very, very bleak. But unfortunately for the Chiefs, Josh Evans is not the only injury they had to worry about. They obviously had some guys in the game. Talk about Brian Cook. Luckily, he is on the better side of things, as we can see here from Arrowhead Addict, that they got some good news on Brian Cook over this past weekend, as he, quote unquote, avoided a high ankle sprain. Now, however, this is not to put out there and say that he is going to play. He's going to be good. We saw Mike Edwards come in. I kind of mentioned it in our preview podcast on Wednesday, talking about that game, saying that Mike Edwards could have a very real shot to be a pivotal player in the game. Turns out he was more pivotal than I really wanted him to be, just because of the injury. Shamari Connor and Jaden Hicks also were both in a very good spot. Mike Edwards played over 60% of the snaps on Thursday. I do think that the Chiefs would rather have Cook, excuse me, for sure. I think that's a known thing, but I do think they find themselves in a little bit more of a comfortable position this week without him, if that is the case, than it was last week. And not just strictly going based upon, really, in a lot of ways, football. You did not know that Brian Cook was going to get injured in the game. You can never estimate or guess that. You can plan for it and, have your depth guys ready at all points, but you can never really, in theory, make your practice, make your game plan based around that. If you know he has the chance to not play, or you know he's not going to play, which we'll find out with our first injury report on Wednesday, kind of get some more information on it. But in that case scenario, then guess what? You can plan a little bit better. You know that Coach Spags is going to be able to kind of coordinate his safeties in a better situation and overall just make this team more cohesive for that upcoming game. Now, Brian Cook has been a fantastic player for the Kansas City Chiefs this season, and the safety room, I would argue, is one of their better points. I'd argue the secondary as a whole is in a very good spot when he is on the field. I mean, you kind of take a look at his season totals, Brian Cook. A 77.3 PFF grade is something to be very, very proud of. That ranks him ninth amongst 93 safeties in the National Football League. He is a very pivotal part. And so, again, I look to the schedule, I look to the playoffs and say, man, if you can't get this win, things look really, really, really bleak. And so, again, we continue on with the injuries, though, just because there's something to be wary of. And again, we won't get our official injury report until Wednesday, but a lot of these guys, it was reported throughout the week and weekend talking about some of these players and their ability to continue on. Now, Trey Smith missed the last game. It was a very big point in the broadcast from Tony Romo talking about how much the Chiefs missed him, especially with the defensive line of the Dallas Cowboys, having Kenny Clark, Osa Digizua, not to mention Quinn Williams, their big trade acquisition at the deadline. They've also got names like Jadeveon Clowney and a second-round rookie in Donovan Ezeraku. Their defensive line was fantastic, and you were without arguably your best offensive lineman, maybe not argument, probably your best offensive lineman on the field. Now, that high ankle sprain, especially in an offensive lineman, can take some time to heal. And apparently, he's dealing with more than that. That's apparently why he is not exactly playing. Ian Rappaport's initial report said that Chiefs right guard is expected to miss some time, which included the Cowboys game. Now, again, given you play from Thursday afternoon to Sunday evening against the Houston Texans, you're going to get a lot more rest than what you get on a normal week, excuse me. But I don't necessarily believe that's going to make a big difference. I think in a lot of ways, it goes back to the point of if you're fighting for your playoff lives, yeah, you want to put them out there, but at the same time, how much do you really believe in this team? How much do you want to put Trey Smith at a risk? I mean, we're getting to that point, and I hate to say it because, I mean, listen, I've been Chiefs fan for 15 whatever years, and for most of my life, it has not been we're fighting for our playoff odds. It's oh man, okay, how are we going to win the AFC this year? What's going to happen this year? And this time, it's I told you from the get go of the season, it just felt different. It just felt different. And so now we look at this and say, okay, well, Trey Smith, obviously he's one of the better offensive linemen in NFL, much less the Chiefs. And you don't want to risk injuring him anymore. Now, there were a couple of guys who were injured, did not play in the game this past week. Noah Gray, a tight end, was questionable going in there. Jawan Taylor, questionable going in there. If Jawan is out for more games, then the offensive line is going to be even more because then you're losing potentially Trey Smith, Jawan, and Josh Simmons, which could cause for a wild spell of disaster. Also, we did see Jared Wiley, his first time playing on Thanksgiving Day after sitting as a healthy scratch for most of the season. Noah Gray, I believe, should be back this week in a lot of aspects. I would think that because it is the concussion protocol, a big thing was that they played on Sunday and Thursday, and that having the 11 days rest should clear him from that concussion protocol. Again, this is not a confirmation of that. We don't know officially until what the injury report is on Wednesday. And to be honest with you, what Andy Reid says in his press conference leading up to that. But I do think Noah Gray should be fine. As for Jawan Taylor, it seems like he could play this week. I know that they're trying to do whatever they can to get him on the field just specifically because, well, they need him. And they've leaned on Wanya Morris a lot this season and in past seasons. Jawan, as we know, has had those full start penalties back in the early part of his Chiefs career and continues to kind of have some penalty issues here and there. But if you're missing three of your starting offensive linemen against the second best defense in the entire NFL and the Houston Texans, that doesn't spell for a wildly successful day, at least in my mind. And the final one is, again, in the secondary, Christian Roland Wallace, defensive back, who he's a big part of this team. He is. Now, if Christian Roland Wallace can get back, get some rest, heal up, then you can be a lot more versatile, a lot more um, I guess more sneaky in your secondary packages because you'll have more bodies out there. But unfortunately, if he's not able to go, you're going to be leaning a lot on Shamari Connor in two different facets: a guy who can play nickelback, a guy who can play safety. And well, if you're going to play that against a Houston Texans team that has C.J. Stroud, a rookie, and Jaden Higgins and Nico Collins, then it's going to be a tough little day to kind of figure it out. Their running game is just okay, but their passing game is kind of what makes it. And to be honest with you, it's the defense that has really kept that team afloat for a lot of different reasons. So I think the biggest problem that we have as Chiefs fans and as the Chiefs team, it's not really, oh, well, we're injured here and there. It's the places we are injured, we're heavily, heavily injured. The secondary, Ryan Cook, Christian Roland Wallace, two guys who are very key pieces to what was probably the best part of the Kansas City Chiefs up until the injuries occurred. I think in the same aspect, the offensive line, something that the Chiefs really were happy with, especially when Josh Simmons was out there. And then now you've got potentially three guys that will be out from your starting line into this upcoming weekend. What is a pivotal, I would say, must-win game. And I talked so much about, is this a must-win game? Is this or that? They're all must-win games now. From here until the end of the season, you cannot lose. If you lose, that playoff percentage may as well not be there. And that's what we're going to talk about here in just a moment when we come back. But got some great news for you, all of my Missouri natives. DraftKings has officially opened here on December 1st. We want them to tell you about what's coming. Missouri, your moment is finally here because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is now live in your state. Now you can make every game even more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, props, and more. All from your phone, all safe, secure, and easy to use. Missouri fans know game day, the tailgates, the noise, the passion. Now, with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bring that same energy to every snap, every touchdown, every win. And right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code 365Chiefs. New Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code 365Chiefs. Crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER 21+. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promo. That is right, my Missouri friends. DraftKings is officially live and open in Missouri. Again, you can bet $5 and get $300 instantly in bonus bets by using the code 365Chiefs. Go do it today. Got a Monday night football action. Patriots. We got the Giants as well in there. Pretty good game to go bet on some overs or maybe some anytime touchdowns for some Drake May, some Stephon Diggs. Go out there, go check it out. Again, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly by betting just $5 with the code 365Chiefs. Okay, you see it down below on the screen. The latest playoff odds is what we're going to go into because I've mentioned so much already about this is a must-win game. This injuries, they're pivotal. And the Texans, who just took down a very good team in the Indianapolis Colts, now they could take out you from the playoffs. Well, is that actually the reality of the situation? Or are we just kind of looking at this from maybe a pessimistic standpoint? And I think it's the reality at this point, and I don't want it to be. But if we look at the AFC conference or AFC standings, you can see that as of right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are 10th in the conference, and they are 6-6 tied with the ninth place team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have the tiebreaker over Kansas City because they have the best win percentage in conference games. Past that, here is the problem that is somewhat arising in it. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 8-4, let's say you win out and they lose a couple and you're tied with them. You don't have the tiebreaker with the Jaguars. Let's say you went out and you were tied with the Chargers. Right now, you don't have the tiebreaker with them. Now, you would beat them one-on-one, but it also would come down to that. The Texans are a team that if you beat this week, you can have the tiebreaker, but if you lose, tiebreakers may not matter. The Bills, you don't have the tiebreaker against. And the Colts, yeah, you beat them, but again, it's going to be a tough road to get there. So is it over for Kansas City? No, no, it's not necessarily over just yet. Is it getting very close? Yes, very, very close. In fact, if we just kind of scroll on over here and look at the playoff odds and can kind of see what the picture looks like, in terms of the Chiefs, they have a less than 1% chance to become a divisional winner at this point. And if you continue on down the line there for Kansas City, you can see they've got a 4% shot at getting a 5 seed, an 8% shot of getting into that 6 seed, and a 14% shot at getting into the wild card. Which you add those up all together, and it results in basically you having a 73% chance to miss the playoffs. Now, that is not a good number whatsoever. In fact, it's a little hard just because the Ravens are a little below you, and we have a 70% chance to miss the playoffs. So, again, this is something to note, and this is obviously not officially updated just yet, but it's obviously a tough time right here looking at Kansas City and not exactly seeing a great fit because that percentage is now getting lower and lower and lower each week, especially with the losses. Um, it's not looking great. It's not. I do, however, believe that Kansas City can rise from the ashes based on their schedule alone. Because let's just go down the line here. And I know we've talked hypotheticals about the Chiefs winning games day in and day out at this point. It hasn't happened. But let's continue on. You're able to beat Houston on Sunday Night Football this upcoming Sunday, and that's a pretty good vibe. You're then able to take a tiebreaker, first of all, with Houston, but also get back over 500. Los Angeles is a team that you played close in the first game of the season, ended up losing. Xavier Worthy got injured in that game. Maybe things are different, especially with it being in Arrowhead, and you're playing well. The only away games that you have left are against the Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, are eliminated from playoff contention, and the Las Vegas Raiders, who are eliminated from playoff contention. You have won your games in Arrowhead. In fact, the only game that you have lost thus far in Arrowhead this season was against the Philadelphia Eagles. Besides that, Baltimore win, Detroit win, Las Vegas win, Washington win, Indianapolis Colts, one of the better teams in the AFC. At least that's what the word was saying, but we have our whereabouts about them now. And then you have Houston, Los Angeles, and Denver, all in Arrowhead Stadium. If you are able to win your home games, then the away games should be relatively easy. Because this is with all respect to Los Angeles, to Denver, to Houston. They're the better teams. But with Tennessee and Las Vegas, you should go in there blind and beat them. Blind. Patrick Mahomes could walk out onto the field himself with an offensive lineman and one wide receiver in Rashee Rice and win that game. At least that's what it should be like. I understand every game in the NFL is a hard game, and I get that, but the Raiders are legitimately one of the worst teams in the NFL, and the Titans fired their head coach in the middle of the season this year. If you are the Chiefs, it is not over. It is not. You still have a viable option to get to the playoffs. Now, if you win all 5 games, that doesn't even guarantee you getting in at this point. which is the position you've put yourself in, and you can't take yourself out of it at that point. But what the point being is, what you can do is go out there, compete, and win all 5 games, and put yourself in a position to take that last spot at the number 7 seed. Could face the Broncos again, but if you beat them in this 5 games, maybe you ought to beat them again. Could face the Patriots, a team that, has had I would say, lackluster schedule in a lot of aspects. There's a lot of ways you can go about this and get into the playoffs and make yourselves known, make yourselves a viable team, and in all reality, make yourselves present and a force to be reckoned with. The problem that I continue to see and the problem that I continue to have to predict that or say that, yeah, that's going to happen is simply put that they haven't looked like a playoff team. They haven't been able to make those plays. And yeah, the one-score games troubled them. And guess what? It was another one-score game technically against the Cowboys. But they won a one-score game against the Colts. The problem is the eye test and the injuries and the lackluster effort on some plays from certain players. I want to sit here and say that I believe in the Chiefs. I want to sit here that I can say the Chiefs are going to go out here. They're going to rack off 5 wins in a row. They're going to be able to beat Denver. They're going to be able to beat Los Angeles or Houston. But I don't see them doing that. I don't see them winning all 5 of these games. I could see them beating 4. I could see 4 pretty simply. I think you can beat the Texans. I think you can beat 1 or 2 of the Denver Los Angeles. I think you should beat both of Tennessee and Las Vegas. But the Denver, Los Angeles, Houston games, they come down to a one-score game. Haven't been so successful in those. It's a very tough time. It's a very interesting situation. Your playoff percentage continues to drain and drain and drain, and the Chiefs don't get great news with every passing moment. The Bills put themselves in a better position. The Colts go down to a position where maybe you could tiebreaker them, but again, their schedule is something to watch for too. The AFC is crowded this year. It is. Usually you're at the top of it. You don't have to worry about it, but it's crowded this year. You're in that mix, and unfortunately, a lot of tiebreakers you don't have. You were thankfully able to beat the Colts, because if you don't, season's over right now. It is. And it's very close to, because you lose to the Texans, we're talking draft. We're talking free agents. We're talking why Brett Veach didn't make the move for Breece Hall. That's what we're 1 week away from if things don't go your way. And forget that, we're 1 loss away from whenever it may happen. Not only that, even if you win all 5 games, you go out there, you take down Houston, Los Angeles, Tennessee, Denver, Las Vegas, you finish the season at a spectacular 11-6 record after all that was done. Technically not guaranteed. You got to win at least 4. You lose 1, starting to think about a lot of different things. But anyways, that is what we'll find out. Again, we'll have injury reports on Wednesday. We'll be able to kind of break down, discuss, talk about this Texans team, talk about the outlook of the game. Obviously, Sunday Night Football is a very fun matchup, and it's going to be a very broadcasted matchup, back-to-back games where you are on prime time television, which is what you want. You're in Arrowhead Stadium. It's a place where you're very, very good at this year. Go out there and get that victory, and we can talk about it and talk about the playoffs in a better positive light. But we'll keep you updated on all the injuries, all the news, all the information that's going on. And of course, we'll keep giving you all these due listens. Once again, DraftKings officially live in Missouri. So if you're a Missouri native, you can bet $5 and get $300 back instantly in bonus bets. And again, all you got to do, use code 365Chiefs. We appreciate you. We hope you have a great rest of your day, whether you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify. Hit that follow button, or you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time here on the show. For now, those guys, peace out from the Chiefs Report.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.